Good evening, everybody. I'm David. I'm alcoholic. And it's nice to be here. It's nice to be asked to come down and just share my experience on 10, 11 and 12. Robbie asked me to do this a couple of weeks ago, and of course I didn't get that much time to really have a think about it, which is probably a good thing, so we'll just stick to my experience, For anybody who hasn't been through the steps, 10, 11 and 12 are our maintenance steps, or our development steps. Steps 1 to 9 got me sober, 10, 11 and 12 keep me sober. And step 10, I suppose, I used to hear when I come into AA first, at step 10, or then we step 10 at night time and stuff like that, and all of this misinformation and stuff like that was out there, My step 10 is for during the day, and it's also a tool that enables me to work steps 3 through 9 and go back to my sponsor with inventory and stuff like that. So I'm just going to read out a few things that were shown to me and what I still practice today. So it says on page 84 here, this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We've rigorously commenced this way of living as we clean up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Now, the grow in understanding and effectiveness for me is the purpose of step 10, because I need to be able to slow down and listen to people, and if I'm carrying a lot of stuff, like after going through the program, or after going through steps 1 to 9, I had a spiritual experience, but the real healing for me wasn't until I began to practice 10, 11 and 12, because it's easy to just go through a book, and say, oh, that's it, happy days, you know what I mean? So to slow down and to listen to people, to grow in understanding and effectiveness, all the principles in the book talk about constant thought of others, that my very life as an ex-problem drinker depends upon meeting other people's needs. So I have to be able to slow down and listen to people so that I can be effective and help other people. Because when it comes down to it, I can go to as many meetings as I want, I can do whatever I want. The principle that I have to keep me sober is to help others. So I have to be effective in doing that. So I'm sure a few of you have probably heard of Pray, Write, Talk, Pray. When I was brought through the program, which is semi-sober day, I stopped drinking in 21st December 03. I didn't start the program until January 04. And it was emphasised to me after going through the first 9 steps about Pray, Write, Talk, Pray. And I was like, what's Pray, Write, Talk, Pray? And prayer is the 3rd step, write is the 4th step, talk is the 5th step, and 6 and 7 is pray again. So that's where I get out of step 10. Step 10 encompasses nearly the whole program. So if I run into a bit of bother, which is quite regular, that's what I use. Pray, write, talk, pray. And 10 and 11, as Bill says, are kind of, they're interwoven. So it's kind of difficult to separate them as such. I practice the 2 of them together really. But I pray in the morning obviously, and if stuff comes up, I'll write it down. I'll go and talk to my sponsor, and I'll finish it with a prayer. Usually there's defects or stuff coming up like that. It says, continue to watch for selfishness, resentment, dishonesty and fear. When these crop up, we ask God to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if you've harmed anyone. So, not only can I work 3 to 9, or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I can also bring in 8 and 9 if I've hurt someone. If I've hurt somebody, the whole thing is there. And this is all just from step 10. I was only with my sponsor last week with inventory. Like I'm 12, 13 years sober at this stage. I still need to practice this stuff. Because, I'm alcoholic, I'm a real alcoholic. I'm not a heavy drinker. I have to do this, So love and tolerance of others is our code. Love and tolerance of others. When I was drinking, I tolerated nobody if you didn't do what I wanted you to do. Now I have to practice this principle. Love and tolerance of others. You know, my sponsor pointed out to me early on, if you practice the principles, the promises will come true. And that has been my experience. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. I don't know how many times I've get into situations with people usually, and that line pops into my head straight away. And we've ceased fighting anything or anyone, you know. For this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally. So it doesn't say you're never going to think about alcohol again. And that has been my experience. I do think about alcohol sometimes, or cocaine or whatever. But I recoil from it. You know, I recoil. It doesn't, you know, step 10, it talks about the gift. What's the gift? What happens when I get to this point in the program? The gift is the obsession is gone. It's been removed. It's not there. I can't explain that. I don't know how it happens. All I know is I've done this work and the obsession was removed from me. That doesn't mean I'm not going to think about alcohol. It's not going to come up for me, you know what I mean? I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. I'm an alcoholic. The difference is that I don't. It's not an obsession anymore. You know. It says we have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. And that's the key to it. To keep in fit spiritual condition. So for me to keep in fit spiritual condition, I have to practice 10, 11 and 12. That's how I keep spiritually fit. It's like going to the gym. I have to go 3 or 4 times a week if you're into the gym to keep physically fit. I have to practice this every day to keep spiritually fit. And that manifests in I can go wherever I want. Doesn't matter. I can go to pubs if I want to, provided I have a legitimate reason to go there. I can, you know, I can go anywhere I want to go. I'm a free man as regards alcohol or drugs. If I'm not in fit spiritual condition, well then, as it says in the book, you're better off probably just helping somebody else until you get there, you know. I'm sure some of you know the story of Jim and more about alcoholism, and for anybody who's been through it. Jim was a salesman and he got sober. They met him and they 12-stepped him and he got sober and he went through the steps and he failed to enlarge his spiritual life and he drank again over resentment. So this is about maintenance and development. If we want to stay sober, we need to practice these 3 steps. You know, if alcohol was my problem, I'd just have to stop drinking and everyone would be hunky-dory, you know. But it's not like that. My life got worse when I stopped drinking instead of getting better. I see people whose lives get better from stopping drinking, but they don't have to do what I have to do. That's just the way it is. So yeah, then it goes on to the promise, you know, what we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. And then the 10-step prayer. Every day is a day we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. So I can will myself to say that every day. And I have a kind of a routine. As soon as I turn the corner into my job, I start belting that one out, you know. Thy will be done, thy will be done, thy will be done. And that's what I practice every day when I'm coming into situations. Before I walked into this room, on the way up in the car, thy will be done, thy will be done. You know. This program changed my life and it enabled me to connect with a higher power. You know, I'm a big Dubs fan, you know what I mean? I'd love to be in Crow Park now today, you know, but I'm here, because even though I'm passionate about the Dubs, I'm more passionate about this because it saved me life. So I'm going to go on to step 11. I hope that made some kind of sense to you. You know, it's a bit kind of all over the place. But step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him Praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. And praying only for knowledge of His will for us is the difficult one. You know, it starts here in the book on page 86. It starts at night time. It doesn't start in the morning. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? And there's 12 questions there that I need to answer every night. So it's the 11th step at night time I need to be practicing, not the 10th step. So what does that mean on a practical level? What do we do? How do I practice that? What was I shown to bring this into my life every day? I write down questions out I have an A5 hardback, and I write the questions out on one side. That's why it starts at night. We start with the night. We'll say, if you're going to do it tonight, we'll say, I'll write the 12 questions out and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Straight away, I'm going to know, was I kind of loving to all? It comes in straight away. Was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, afraid? It's there. You know what I mean? It's not something I can run away from if I'm being honest with myself. That's the key to it. You know, were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Usually, yeah. You know, were we thinking of what we could do for others or what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. So I'd be very good at sitting there loafing on what I didn't do, you know what I mean, and what I should have done, and thinking about time just tipping away. This is practical. I'm very undisciplined. It's just my nature. I'm an undisciplined person. And this disciplines me. So I have the information there from the previous night, and then I get up the next morning. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. So before we begin, on awakening, I'm praying straight away. I say that specific prayer. Then it says, before that it says we consider our plans for the day. So I'll do a list of 10 things during the day that I need to get done. And it can be practical things, they can be whatever you like, but 9 times out of 10, it's the leftover of the questions I've answered the night before. And I bring these onto my list. This is the way I was shown. And it could be anything. Resentment, fatherhood. I find it hard to be a father, you know what I mean? All these things, practical things, whatever. And that's what I meditate on. I meditate on my list. Because I'm trying to bring my higher power's will into these things. And that's what I meditate on. Now, by no means a Buddhist or a guru or anything like that, but I've learned over the past 11 or 12 years to sit with myself for 10 or 15 minutes and just do nothing. Sometimes I get an answer there and then, most times I don't. I can have stuff on my list for months, and then it just comes out of the blue. So all these situations in my life that I have that are down on this list are things that, you know, without bringing my higher power into them, my defects would be driving them. My defects would be driving them, and that's what I don't want. That's what got me here, you know. So it says, under these conditions we can apply our mental faculties or abilities with assurance, for after all God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is clear of wrong motives. That's very important, wrong motives. If my motives, if I can question my motives with every situation that I have, and my motives are right, I'll be all right, you know. I'll have peace. But sometimes through rationalisation and different things, it's hard to pin your motives down, you know. In thinking about our day, so this is meditation I'm talking about, in thinking about our day, we may face indecision, we may not be able to determine which course to take. We ask God for inspiration, intuitive thought or decision. We relax and take it easy. So I don't struggle. I used to struggle all the time with stuff. I don't struggle today. We're often surprised how the right answers come after we've tried this for a while. What used to be the hunch of occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Now that happens if you practice this. It becomes a working part of the mind. You learn to trust your gut. You learn to trust your instinct. You know, I was always coming out of my head all the time and getting into trouble. And sometimes I don't like what my gut or my instinct says, but, you know. It says, we usually conclude the period of meditation. So, I wake up in the morning, I've done my prayer, I've done my list. You know, I've taken the information from the questions the night before, and I usually say another couple of prayers, that personal prayers myself, and then we get to here, page 87. It says, we usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be. That we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will. Self-will is what gets me into trouble. We are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others would be helped. That's how you pray. You know the old 999 prayer before you go through the steps and stuff, you know, help me, help me, help me, I swear I'll never do it again. That's not how we pray anymore. We're careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. Goes on then, if circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. Now, we're a non-practicing Catholic, I think is the term, you know, but well, you can go to church sometimes, it's okay, you know what I mean? I don't get caught up in it. I don't understand it, but I don't get caught up in it, you know. I think it's important, you know, the principle here is be quick to see where religious people are right, make use of what they offer. So religious people have a lot to offer. I know personally, you know, there's books and there's different things that appeal to me that I brought into my meditation outside of AA literature or the big book or stuff like that, you know. It's important to kind of, you have to keep growing with this stuff. It's a kind of a personal journey, it's an individual thing, you know, but it's important that you keep growing with it, you know. And here's, if you can practice this next line here, you'll never get in trouble again. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated. No. Or doubtful, I always forget that one. And ask for the right thought or action. So to pause when agitated, that goes on my list and it has been on my list since I started the book. The top of my list, pause when agitated. My personality is one of a kind of, I react to people. And this works. Sometimes like you can this can come at you at different times during the day if you really practice it. But then there's other days where it just doesn't come into play at all and I react. You know, I'm an imperfect human being. My sponsor said to me one day, you know, if you can pause when agitated, you'll never have to go and see your sponsor. You know. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. Humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done, which is the same as step 10. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. And they're all blocks for asking for help. It's not just anger. If I get excited, higher power goes out the window. If I get excited about something, you know what I mean? Worry, self-pity, you know, if I'm going to make a silly decision. You know, if I don't consult my higher power, I just go and do it sometimes because I'm blocked. So as we become much more efficient, we do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. They're the 11-step promises. So meditation gives me a kind of energy. You know, it gives me a, you know, I remember kind of one day I was in work struggling with a lot of things and I had to ring my sponsor and say, I'm not over the shop here, and he says, why don't you try meditating again? I was really tired and I just got offside for a half an hour and I had a new lease of life about me. So I don't tire so easily trying to run the whole show. You know, I used to be burnt out all the time. I'll tell you a story I only found out a while ago that I have a thyroid problem, right? So apparently you've underactive and overactive, and I was overactive my whole life and never knew about it. burnt the whole thing out, and now I'm gone underactive. And when I went to the doctor, she called 2 other doctors in, they got me results. You're meant to be from 0 to 3, I was 94. I'd never seen anything like it. Stress, me mind all the time, burning out. So this is the complete opposite. This is why this is so effective to me as an alcoholic. So just as we alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we've just outlined. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. We used to hate hearing that. Faith without works is dead. You know. There's another line in the book. It says, faith without works is dead. How appallingly true for the alcoholic. If I could pray my way out of this, it'd be grand, you know what I mean? But I have to do the action. I have to take the action. And it's the faith, the prayer, and the action that's the solution to anything that's going on in your life, really. So it says, experience, this is just my own stuff I have in here, experience freedom from self-will, experience being useful to other people. You know, and that's what it's all about. So that's 10 and 11, and you know, they're kind of interwoven and they're brilliant. And it's just become a way of life to me today, even at home herself, just when I'm sitting at the table there, just she might walk in and she just turns around and walks back out. At night time it's the same, because she knows what I need to do, you know. At the beginning I was a bit kind of, I have to pray. You know, but it's just become normal now. It's just become normal. The same way we're going on to step 12 now, you know, it's become normal for people to kind of come to the house and stuff like that over the past couple of years and stuff, and you're trying to sponsor them. Is that my family see these people getting sober. They see them getting sober. They see the change in these guys who are coming to the house. I mightn't necessarily see it, but they see it. And that's why it's so important to bring this into the home. Step 12, having had a spiritual experience or spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. Years ago I was in a different fellowship and I was trying to help people after my second meeting. I certainly hadn't had a spiritual experience, but it was off my head. You know, you can't transmit something you haven't got, is what it says in here, you know. And the 12th step for me, it's broken into obviously the 5 or 6 chapters there. Working with others. Your man Bob D in America calls it the juice. Some people call it the sex of AA. It's very hard for people to understand that if they're not practicing it. For me, Clancy calls it your perception. You know, this is what clears your perception, kind of. You know, if I want to stay sober, I have to carry a message. I tried to stay sober by going to loads of meetings. It didn't work. You know, when I got sober first, I've shared this before, when I got sober first, my relationship broke up, and I had a lot of growing up to do, you know what I mean? I was 28, 27, 28 at the time with 2 young children, and I was just going through this where I was just coming to here, and my partner at the time went, out you go. So what I was left with nothing, no job. My whole security was wrapped up in my relationship, and all I had was this. I had 2 guys. When I went through the program first, I was a couple of chapters ahead of these 2 guys because it started, and that's all I had. That's all I had. And by carrying the message to these 2 guys, by just reading the book out, it kept me sober. And I was in a lot of pain. A lot of pain. You know. So I've been there. I know what it's like to sit and just have this and kind of, you know, looking back on it, you could say it was a spiritual experience. At the time it didn't feel like a spiritual experience, you know what I mean? It felt very painful, but it was a lot of growing up to do. The first promise says, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when all other activities fail. Bingo. All other activities. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. What does that mean? I thought it was going to be so boring when I came into AA. You know, a frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of my life. It doesn't mean I'm immersed in trying to help everybody on this planet. I need balance. I have a family, you know, I have a job and stuff like that. I have hobbies. But what this is my foundation stone. This is my bread and butter. Everything is built on top of this. You know, helping others. Everything, my whole life. Because my life had to be built up from scratch again. And this is the foundation of it, as it was then, and it still is today. I don't forget who I am. I don't forget where I came from. I certainly never forget the emotional pain I was in without a drink. You know, so I'm very grateful for this. Don't start out as an evangelist or a reformer. Very important. I was like up on a hill like that, looking down on everybody, you know, on a spiritual hilltop. When I went through this first. You know, if love and tolerance of others is my code, I can't sit on a hilltop looking at people saying, why aren't you doing what I think you should be doing, you know? That's a powerful place too. So it goes on to explain every guideline, every principle, everything you need to know on how to carry the message to an alcoholic is in working with others. And it's a fantastic chapter. You know, there's so much to get through, like, continue to speak of alcoholism as a fatal illness, as an illness, a fatal malady. Very important. Talk about conditions, body and mind which accompany it. Keep his attention focused mainly on personal experience. Explain that many are doomed to never realise the predicament. But you may talk to him about the hopelessness of alcoholism because you offer a solution. You know, the truth about love is brutality thing. You know, because of the truth about love is brutality. So, you know, I've kind of, I found when I came into AA first, I wasn't 12-step. That was the problem, you know what I mean? I wasn't 12-step when I joined Alcoholics Anonymous. I was just told to keep coming back to meetings and everything to be alright, and I wasn't. So today, if I'm lucky enough, I'll try and 12-step somebody, qualify them into this program, you know. So I'm just going to go on because there's loads here in work with others. I mean, there's so much in it. One thing I do say to most people is, you know, the sponsorship model I have in here, and it's about when I'm sitting down with a guy, we're both equal. There's no, you know, I need this guy more than he needs me, and I make sure he understands that. You know, it is important for him to realise that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital role in your own recovery. Actually, he may be helping you more than you're helping him. Make it plain he is under no obligation to you that you hope, only that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. Suggest how important it is that he place the welfare of other people ahead of his own. And straight away off the bat, start practicing this stuff, you know. And then it goes on to the next chapter, which is, I suppose, the 12th step is to alcoholics, and then you've the family, wives, family afterwards, and society in general, stuff like that, employers. Bill wrote the chapter to wives, it's for wives, and you know, it's kind of, the one thing I like about that chapter, it does break down the different types of drinkers, you know, the heavy drinker, the real alcoholic, stuff like that. Fabulous information there. Family afterward, I suppose, for me, was very close to the bone when I was going through it because of what was going on in my own life. And I was like your man who thought that the higher power was going to come down and pay all the bills, you know what I mean? That was me. I went off on a tangent. I see people run into money sometimes. I was too lazy for that. You know, I hadn't got the head for that. But I went off on a spiritual tangent. Don't worry about it, it's alright. Everyone's going to be alright. Everyone wasn't alright. It says, you know, if a man can't meet his family obligations, he isn't so spiritual after all. and that's what happened to me, you know. And it took me a while to get back to it, you know what I mean? Because I suppose I had such a spiritual experience, you know, my whole life, my whole spirit had changed, you know what I mean? What I'd been looking for my whole life, I'd found, and I was on such a high from it, that I didn't think, you know, we still have a role to play here, like, you know. For us, material well-being always follows spiritual progress. It never preceded it. I love that one. You know, I suppose today, I'm able to go to work, you know what I mean? I'm able to clock in on time. I'm able to be responsible. I'm able to provide for my family. My whole life, I think the Christians call it being reborn. You know, I've gone from having nothing, being off my head, drinking, drugging, coming into AA, still untreated, and losing everything. Today to being sober, responsible, of a family, of a home, of a job, and all I did was this. That's all. Don't ask me how all that works, I haven't a clue. So, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll answer as many questions as I can. If I don't know the answer, bring your sponsor.
Thanks very much, Dave. So, has anybody got any questions for Dave? Nobody? I'll get one.
Hi, how are you again?
How are we doing?
I'm just wondering, when I was asked to help the lady there the other day, you know, to bring us through the book, and how did you do with your pain? Because you said you were going through pain when you first brought someone through the book. Did you bring your pain into that, or did you leave it behind?
Okay. I suppose depends how you look at it. You know what I mean? Like, I was in a lot of pain, but by sitting in the pain, I wasn't getting any better. So by helping others and by sponsoring people, they were like two little islands in my life that took me away from myself. But I stopped thinking about myself. I stopped thinking about my pain, and brought me higher power into my life. See, when I took a third step, it's kind of like a contract. You're kind of saying, okay, if you remove this obsession and this compulsion, I'll do whatever you need to do, whatever you want me to do. And obviously my higher power had a plan, so yeah, it kind of stopped me from thinking about myself and took me out of the pain. Does that make sense? Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Dave. You know, when you're doing the 12 questions at night, how much detail did you go into? Like, do you just kind of mash it down under each one, or do you focus in on a particular one if it was a big thing that day?
Okay. I suppose it kind of depends how big it is. You know, I would probably answer each question as slowly as I can, and kind of, I mean, the first thing I'll do before I sit down with anything is pray, you know, and then I'll look at the questions. And I mean, the last question, I'll just get it here if you know. It says, after making a review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. So it's not a simple thing, just going, you know, I need to slow down. I need to see if there's one particular thing that's going on, if I have a resentment or something like that. You know, it's a difficult thing for me. I need to be able to sit with it and to kind of see what's going on. And as I said already, I've sat with things for a long time on my list, because I used to go over to my sponsor every 2 weeks when I got sober first, and it was just the same thing over and over again. Whereas I had to learn to sit with it, to sit with the insecurity, and to see my part in it. And that can take time. Is that helpful?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Could you just elaborate a little on your process of meditating on the list, what you had to do from start to finish, just a little bit of elaboration, please.
I wake up in the morning, and first thing I say is I ask God to direct me thinking, especially ask that I be divorced of self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. And then I'll sit down and do my list. Okay, so I'll write out my list. And we have to understand the way it's laid out in the book here, the night time is first. So we'll start with the morning, we'll say now, right? So I'll write out my list. It can be, hold on a second, hold on for a second. Actually, I have this morning's list there. So we'll start out at step 10, 11, 12, presentation, help. Simple stuff. Always when agitated and doubtful. Fatherhood, thy will be done. Help others, kind and loving to all. Prayer. Review at night. Because sometimes I don't bother doing it. I get caught up in things. And that's my list. Now there can be practical things that come into that, like whatever, if I need to do something. Because I'm a bit of a loafer, you know what I mean? And I'll just meditate on that 10, 15 minutes. 9 times out of 10, what happens to me is, sorry, what's your name? Ian. 9 times out of 10, Ian, what happens to me is, I'll do this process and I'll go out, I'll chill out into the world. And if I'm looking for a specific answer on something, it comes to me during the day when I'm least expecting it. It just comes out of the blue. I've often been driving in work or sitting down and somebody would say something to me and I just went, boom. So my meditation isn't just for the 10 or 15 minutes, so I feel it goes on through the whole daily consciousness, if that makes sense. Okay?
Yep. Great, thanks.
Hey Dave, I'm just wondering, you know, in active addiction, constantly beating ourselves up for our behaviour, what we're doing and what we're doing wrong. In recovery, do you find when you're, say, getting lazy, your defects coming back in, you noticing that you can just as easily beat yourself up in recovery? So I find myself, I don't know whether, because I came into recovery to stop hating myself, you know, and to stop beating myself up. But I find myself a lot of the time still doing it because I'm not, say, going to enough meetings, or I'm not putting enough into the program as I should be or whatever. And I find myself still getting into that constant kind of battle with myself. Whereas I just prefer to have a bit of peace of mind and know that I'm doing my best. But I don't know, it's like it's a similar pattern as what I was like in addiction. And I'm just wondering, what do you do when you see like your defects coming back, or when you feel you're taking the foot off the gas slightly for a week or two? Do you beat yourself up, or do you just, do you know, that kind of way?
Yep.
I don't know. And yeah.
A lot of the time, people, I find, I'll be telling people what I need to hear. And you've just answered your own question, basically. You know, if I'm feeling sorry for myself when looking at myself all the time, being too hard on myself, which I do, if I, you know, take the stick out and start fighting myself sometimes, there's something I'm not doing. Something I'm not doing. I'm caught up with myself again. It happens to me regular. You know, what gets me out of that is work, is doing the work. You know, my defects don't come into play if I'm helping someone. It just doesn't come into it. When I'm not helping someone, I'm not just talking about alcoholic here now. We have a girl at home, we have a little girl, we have 2 boys. So most of the time we have to try and find what does my partner need from me? What do my children need from me? And I have to work towards that. So I'm not thinking about myself, I'm getting caught up on that stuff. I should be doing this, I should be here, I should be doing that, you know what I mean? I'm a perfectionist, a flawed idealist, if you like. So I expect, you know, my sponsor said to me one day, even now at JC, couldn't live up to your expectations, and he was right. I think I expect far too much of myself. So I need to keep it as simple as possible, apply the principles, and then the peace of mind comes. But if I'm not applying the principles, if I'm not doing the work, well then, you know, you get out with what you put into it, type of thing, yeah? Is that all right?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, this is the last question because we're running short on time.
Hi, Hi, just two quick technical questions on it. First of all, would you do meditation at night afterwards when you're asking the corrective measures? And secondly, when you're thinking, when you do your 10-step during the day for resentments, whatever, would you bring that into your 11-step list afterwards at the end of the day?
Yes. All questions.
Okay.
Do you want me to elaborate on that? Are you happy with that?
Thanks a million, Dave. Right, we've reached the end of the workshop, so yeah, forget about it, sorry. I just want to give Dave a round of applause for his time. Just quickly, you know, I got a lot, I tried to bail from this workshop because I have some personal difficulty going on at the moment. And thank God I've got friends that know what's good for me, you know. And thank God I was here because, you know, on page 45, Wilson talks about lack of power being our dilemma. And I always understood that at a theoretical level, around booze, always. But I stood on a cliff face in Bundoran on Wednesday night, and I looked out into the Atlantic Ocean, where a friend of mine had went missing. And I understood what Wilson was talking about at the gut level. And the next line after that, he says, we had to find a power by which we could live. And I understood what that meant at a gut level. We have two choices. We can become part of the problem in self-pity, or we can be of service. And 10, 11, and 12 teaches to be of service. You want me to fold the flag? I'll fold the flag. You want me to carry the coffin? I carry the coffin. You want me to drive the gun carriage? I'll drive the gun carriage. I will do whatever it takes to make this process a little bit easier on the people around me and myself. So this workshop's after helping me immensely there. I was, as a lot of people could say, I was very, you know, screwed up basically at the start of the workshop, but I'm a little bit more kind of focused now on what I need to do. Obviously we cannot transmit something we haven't got. That's what I got from your workshop. So if you all could just join me as we slowly say the Serenity Prayer and close the workshop. So David, if you want to lead us in this prayer.
God, grant us strength to certain things we cannot change. Courage to change things we can.
Thanks.